Well, Kerry, always great to see you. And let's look back at 2021 for the PGA of America. Can you possibly top the Ryder Cup result, Phil winning the PGA Championship, Nelly Korda winning the KPMG Women's PGA, where she became the #1 player in the world? I mean, what a phenomenal year for you guys. It all came together.
It was a spectacular year, Doug. We could not have been so proud of certainly my team that put it all together, but 4 great major championships, 4 great winners, and 4 very exciting events that I certainly enjoyed watching, and I think most people that saw them also enjoyed great championships.
Yeah, and when you think about the PGA Championship, obviously with Phil winning, and then the Ryder Cup, which was it was weird because it was a blowout, and yet it was still really exciting. The Ryder Cup always is, even if it's a blowout. I think that's part of the beauty of the event. What's the image, like when you think back on 2021, because there were so many, and I don't know that there was an obvious one. What's the image that will pop into your head when you think about that year in the future?
I just think everything that we overcame, as you know, putting those championships together with COVID and sort of our plan A, plan B, plan C, depending on what was happening with COVID, and then ultimately putting on 4 great championships, and you know, each one had their own unique stories, their own excitement, and it was wonderful to be a part of, and really could not be more thrilled to have been a part of them.
I want to get a little maybe nerdy on Kiawah. So I think Kiawah is an unbelievable major championship venue. You were out there, Doug. Yes. To see it on TV, you know, obviously I think people think of what Rory did there in 2012 and just kind of lighting the place on fire. But this time it seemed like just such a, like, the right kind of test. I think it was Padraig Harrington that said it's the best major setup I've ever seen. And how much of that, for you, how much do you take pride in? And then how much of it is weather dependent? Is the fact that there's wind out there and that challenges those guys in ways that, you know, the course setup just can't if there's not wind?
Yeah, it was a memorable week in that regard, in that obviously it's a great golf course. It always has been a wonderful test of golf, but the wind was such that it was, each day was, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 miles an hour. And then, you know, on the last day, it totally switched direction. The great news was I spend a lot of time each day with the weather team who's there on site, sort of talking to him, what are you seeing, what direction, what strength. So kind of, you know, had a plan in place on the weekend prior, but once we started to see, you know, where it was, sort of in my mind put the plan of where we were going to put the tees, adjust the tees, whole locations, so that it really did test the best players in the world. And I thought he played beautifully, as I think some of the players were kind enough to say they enjoyed the challenge and the test. But really, it's the golf course, it's the test, and the players playing on what is a great visual, stunning venue, and with remarkable golf.
Kerry, let's talk about the PGA Championship at Southern Hills. Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was there the last time when Tiger had that big win, the runaway win. Man, it was hot. Thank goodness for the change of date, the PGA Championship, that happened a few years ago, which I think has elevated the PGA Championship in more ways than you might have been able to imagine. But talk about Southern Hills, returning to a place. I remember talking to you then about the setup then. How has it changed?
Yeah, Southern Hills, the last time we were there, as you say, it was 103 degrees every day for 7 days in a row with little or no wind. And again, as you said, changing to the May date was one of the, you know, Southern Hills was hopefully one of the benefactors of that, from certainly a spectator enjoyment, a player enjoyment in terms of temperatures and climate. For the golf course itself, since we were there, Gil Hanse has come in and restored, changed a little bit the golf course. He's added more bunkers. He's created a little more roll-offs around the greens, and has really done an unbelievable job on making what was already a fantastic golf course even better. And I think The players, when they come, there's certainly more chance of wind, as we had at Kiowa, which we didn't really have in August. So I think that could certainly come into play. And it's just a great test of golf. It's some of the best greens complexes in the country, if not in the world, which makes it tough on us. You know, green speed, you've got to be careful on where you go with the green speed. But I do think the players will really enjoy it. Gil also added a few additional tees, which will put the driver into the players' hands more often than was the case when we were last there, or give the players the option to use a driver, not that they need to necessarily. So could not be more excited about looking forward to it. They have an outstanding superintendent, Russ Myers, who was originally there. He went then on to LA Country Club and then has come back to Southern Hills, and you know, they brought in state-of-the-art hydronics on the greens that heat the greens and cool the greens if need be, depending on the temperatures. And with all this science, he's an unbelievable superintendent, and it's going to be hopefully one of our greatest championships, hopefully better than 2021, and that's our aim every year, is to make the next one even better, even more exciting.
Well, I think that, you know, over the last 10 years since I've been covering the PGA Tour, the PGA Championship has emerged. I was kind of making this point the other day on Twitter. It's emerged as, I think, the most exciting of the majors. I don't know. People can argue about whether it's the most prestigious or the best or the one you most want to win. But I think it's become the most exciting. And I'm curious about how much that's tied to course architecture and setup and things like that. Now, obviously, you're going to get great leaderboards at any major championship because you have the best players in the world. But do you see that excitement? You know, I think about Belle Reve. I think about last year. I think about JT's win at Quail Hollow. There's been a lot of really exciting PGAs that maybe you haven't gotten those finishes at other major championships. How much is that tied to course architecture?
I think very much so. I think our aim is to present the players a fair, challenging test. Try and bring in some excitement if the course or the architecture allows you to do that, and hopefully let the players play. They're the best players in the world. We try and keep out of the way and set a test that they enjoy. And I think, you know, as you say, recently it's meant that, you know, we've had some pretty exciting finishes, and that's what we aim for our championship. We're proud. We want players to come, play well and win, and not necessarily maybe lose a championship. So we've been fortunate in that regard, and you know, giving the players some risk out there or some opportunities, certainly on the weekend, is something that I think helps make that happen, if you can do anything to make it happen.
Yeah. Kerry, let me ask you this about the Ryder Cup. We were thirsty for the Ryder Cup, obviously, last year, Whistling Straits. For those of us who root for the United States team, it was terribly exciting. Where in the golf pantheon has the Ryder Cup elevated itself to? Is it the biggest spectacle in the game? I tend to believe, with all due respect to the major championships and all the great things that are happening globally in golf, and listen, I cover them all, but there's something about that excitement level for the Ryder Cup. I can't wait for Rome, Italy. It's going to be phenomenal. I mean, where has it elevated to? Is it the number one thing in golf?
That's tough to know, Doug. I do agree with you. I think the Ryder Cup, the first time I saw it, was I think 1981. Goes back a bit, but even then, the excitement and the passion of the Ryder Cup, it's so different than a normal, regular stroke play, even if it's a major championship, because all 28 matches mean as much as the other, each match. You know, from the first match to the last match, they're all only worth 1 point, but you're playing us against them, and that competition is, and the passion and the excitement that the spectators bring, the television have brought to it, it's just continued to grow, and it's been, you know, one of, you know, my greatest, I guess, privileges to be a part of helping it grow, helping develop it, but at the same time trying to manage it so it doesn't, you know, get out of hand, and, you know, discipline, control, spectator behavior are all things we're concerned about. And finding that balance, and as you say, I thought Whistling Straits was probably one of the most visually spectacular Ryder Cups we've ever had. Again, partly because of the venue, or a big part because of the venue, when you have Lake Michigan and blue sky and sunshine and 24 best players in the world playing against each other. And as you say, our aim is to continue to build on it, Ryder Cup to Ryder Cup, and I've been fortunate to be involved in 17 of them, and hopefully the next one in Rome will be even bigger and better.
My only complaint about the Ryder Cup is that I used to think it should be played every year. Now I think it should be played twice a year. That's how excited I get about the Ryder Cup. Kerry, the evolution of the PGA of America, to me, I've only been in this for, I guess, 10 or 11 years now, and it seems like the trajectory of the PGA of America has been really good. I'm curious about, from the inside, just what that evolution has been like, how it's grown. Obviously, moving the headquarters to kind of my part of the country in Texas, in Frisco. And then just, like I said earlier, the PGA Championship moving to May, I think, has helped a lot with its perception, and Tiger contending and all these exciting finishes have not hurt things at all. So I'm curious about, just from the inside, what that evolution has been like over the last decade.
It's been amazing. It's been, an honor and a privilege for me to be part of it and to work with, with our board, with our officers, whose, heart, passion and soul is, to help and support the game and our PGA members. And, we have 28,000 PGA members who've been out there through this pandemic, through the last 2 years, helping keep the game growing, getting the game going again. And, to be helped for me personally, to be working for our membership, who I know work so hard. It's just a discipline that we all have, and we have a great team of staff on site, both in Palm Beach Gardens and very shortly in Frisco, which we're looking forward to. And our future home of the PGA of America is going to be amazing, in the middle of the country, major market in Dallas. All our members will be able to get to and from it. But again, being in part of our major events, bringing it, making our members feel proud of it, many of whom play in it, or some of whom play in those events. It's been a great ride for me, and great to be a part of the PGA of America.
And Kerry, one last question for me, because popularity of the game right now is at an all-time high. More people are playing now than even back when Tiger was at the zenith of his popularity. And I want to ask why, because, and obviously the PGA of America has had a lot to do with that. Not only the PGA professionals, 28,000 strong across the country. Phil winning was huge. The Ryder Cups we've talked about was huge. But why? Why are more people now playing?
Well, I think you're right. I think part of the attention to golf is certainly one of the reasons. And as sad and as challenging as COVID has been, I think without doubt COVID has had a huge effect, because it was one of the few sports that anyone could play relatively safely. It's outdoors, you're distancing from people. So, that was a big reason why people took up the game, came back to the game, or played the game. And, right now, continually, it continues to be prospering. And, our job and our PGA members' job is to continue that momentum and hopefully keep players interested and make the game enjoyable. And how they set up their golf courses is important, for not just for the best players in the world at major championships, but for day in, day out golf. And we're in discussions this week about how we can help our PGA members, help golfers enjoy their golf more, on how golf courses are set up and designed, and what tees they use, and how long the fairways are, and the speed of the greens, and all those factors that, make golf more enjoyable. And I think we need to be part of it, and our members are the great leaders at many clubs that make that happen.
We'll get you out of here on this one. So my favorite single day of last year was Sunday at the Ryder Cup. I thought it was, again, a blowout, but very memorable in a lot of ways with what happened with Rory and, you know, Steve Stricker talking about how this is his major championship win. And I'm curious about, how did you perceive all that? Because you're so closely tied to those championships, and you're so like in the inner circle. I'm just curious about, like, were you out there watching it? Were you watching it on a screen? Like, what was how did you perceive and kind of internalize everything that was happening on Sunday?
Well, not just Sunday, but the whole week, but specifically on Sunday, you know, it's like any other day at a championship. Things happen. So, you know, I actually started the first, well, not the first 2 hours, but after we'd done a lot of things, there was a middle 2 hours where we had a sort of rules situation that was going on that we had to deal with before the first groups even teed off. So that took a while. Then, you know, obviously seeing the players come in, a couple of the players were involved in the rules situation that took place. All was, you know, all was good. It was just, but it was something that comes up in any event. And then the players come out there, they tee off. And to answer your question specifically, you know, I go out there, I try and feel it, see how it's playing. Once we've set the tees up and the course up, you know, it's out of our control, really, once the players have teed off. So it's just, you know, making sure things are working well. You know, ultimately, once we get closer, getting ready for the presentation, whoever team or whichever team wins. You know, we had things such as the sort of the handshake at the end of the match, how we were going to manage that. So a lot of operational details that go in. Because the players, you know, once they're players, we have the best referees, PGA members as referees out with the group. So that part of it, I'm relying on them to run each individual match, report the scores, and just, you know, putting out fires. So in that, but at the end of it, it was great to hear and see and feel how the players, the caddies, the partners of the players, player family, all just had a great experience, loved the Ryder Cup, and, you know, the feedback we've had is, you know, it was one of the best Ryder Cups that they had ever experienced. And that's really what makes our job worthwhile, is when you hear comments like that from, you know, from both teams even, you know,
right.
Not just necessarily our US team.
When you set up the tee on number 1, did you envision somebody driving the green or no?
It was funny. We made that decision probably 3 years ago, actually, the idea, so that we could fit up all the infrastructure. And even at the time, I said, well, maybe, you know, somebody could reach this downwind, not really expecting to see what actually did happen on the Sunday, when not only did it almost pitched it on the green. I guess I was assuming a 40, 50 yard running it up, but I think he almost flew it all the way onto the green. But yeah, it was added to the excitement, added to the thrill of what is just a truly spectacular event.
Up and down from 365 on Sunday.
Incredible stuff. Great memories. 2021 was awesome. Kerry, thanks. An honor to talk to you, sir. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks for having me.